He says he normally has all of his patients eat a chicken sandwich, a piece of fruit, a cookie, and a small glass of milk. My parents and I are at the hospital for the doctor who is supposed to be ordering my manometry. And Solino had to stay home with Teddy because it's a 3-hour trip. And I feel like we packed for a year.
And you're gonna park on the other
You might want to put the window up so we don't get exhaust.
Yeah.
I'm trying to do a lot of things here.
He's getting high strung like you. There's no need to be high strung.
Yes.
For once, it's not Mama being high strung.
I know. You're gonna let us off right here.
Yeah, I got that. I'm just trying to see where I gotta go after that.
Which is surprising because yesterday she was saying she felt it welling up inside her.
Well, she likes it because she's not having to drive.
Left a little bit. Cheyenne has to go to the restroom.
This is a big teaching hospital.
Cheyenne, let me just say, stressful. High strung. Wasn't me this time.
We literally got here over an hour early.
Thank God.
And we used every bit of that time just once we got to
here
the hospital.
at
We just
10,
couldn't
11.
park. We just couldn't park. This reminds me of Shane's
The
in
cleaner.
Florida. The med student or whomever came in for a long time,
Sure.
but she discussed the manometry and even seemed to want to add another part, the rectal one, to the list. She mentioned the smart pill test, although I'm not so certain that's a good idea with the plastic and different components. I can just see that getting stuck and have to go in and get it surgically removed or something crazy. Because it's solid. Depending on which one they use, you've got the SITS marker one, and then you've got the one that's an actual camera.
Yeah.
And so the whole time it's traveling through your GI tract, it's taking pictures. And
What would you do if it
With
went
that.
in and came out an hour here?
that reminds me of when my tube did that. I'll have to explain this. Okay, so normally when you're getting surgical tubes placed, they like to place a regular PEG tube prior to doing a GJ tube because the conversion of a GJ, there's just more risk when you do it initially. When I had my surgery back in 2015, they placed a PEG, and I had to wait for that new stoma to heal for 6 weeks prior to replacing it. But when they went to replace it, when they placed the PEG, they did not place a ballooned tube. The bumper holding it in was a plastic disc about yay big.
It's collapsible though.
The surgeon had given me the option that I could either he could just pull up and yank it from my stoma, and I've heard the horror stories about that online, and I said, no way, Jose. And the other option was that they could go in through endoscopy, and I had just had a terrible surgery where they used the wrong anesthesia, and the pediatric intensivist who was head over my care had said never to have another surgery again unless I'm dying. So then that was off the table because they didn't want to sedate me. And then the third option was that he could cut that PEG tube off from the outside so that just the internal bumper holding it in would fall into my stomach and it would pass through my GI tract as normal. And I had such terrible mast cell colitis at that time. That was during my inpatient stay when I was inpatient for 8 months due to mast cell. And this was prior to my bowels being like this. But yeah, it came out within 2 hours. We timed it.
It was on the fast track.
My body probably just sensed that, hey, that's not supposed to be there. This is plastic. We don't want this in you. And evacuate. We are on our way back to the car. I kind of think that the appointment was a waste of time.
No, not completely.
I think it was a waste of time.
You don't want the other test?
I do, but so many other places actually do that one. I would just feel better having it here because I know they are a motility center and I think they could do it better. But the doctor did agree to do the AD manometry. He did not want to do the colonic one because I only have part of my colon, and the part that I do have left isn't very much, so it wouldn't really give that much information. He was very stubborn in the sense that he says that you have to eat for this test. He says he normally has all of his patients eat a chicken sandwich, a piece of fruit, a cookie, and a small glass of milk. I haven't had solid food in 4 years, other than purees and such, of course.
I mean, even
and
if
you
you
can't
wanted
just
to.
expect me to be able. If I could eat that, I wouldn't be here. And I can't throw up. So, like everyone else, even the ones without mast cell issues and allergies aren't a problem.
Yeah, if you could just eat
From a
it,
motility
swallow it, and
standpoint.
it come back up.
There's only one way out. If my small bowel is already dilated, double the size, which is what it was when they last measured that, it's not eating a full meal of solid consistency. It's going to land me in the ICU. And me doing purees of like green beans.
Are you okay right here? There's a bathroom right there. I just want to use it. Are you really okay?
Yes. Is not good enough
Let me have my phone. Before I get
It's not good enough for him. He wants a substitute that's comparable in consistency and nutrients. The Georgetown doctor wanted this. She was supposed to have contacted him, but I don't think that they ever did have full communication, or this would have been conveyed, because the Georgetown doctor is very accommodating, and this man is not. He wasn't thinking of the fact that A, I haven't had solid food in 4 years, and B, he was also not understanding the extent of my allergy. Back in the car and changed. The doctor had aftershave on, and when he examined me, he managed to get it all over me. Rather than the colonic manometry, he added the rectal one that'll check the whole 6 inches of the rectum, which he thought should be sufficient. So we're going to continue on with that, doing that test here. We scheduled it first, and then afterwards, on a separate day, he's going to go in and do an endoscopy, take aspirates
have that done. I really don't see.
to test for small intestinal bacterial overgrowth and to check enzyme levels. And then while I'm already sedated from the endoscopy, then to place the probe sensors for the AD test. But if I can't eat, then he just said the test isn't going to work, which I've known others who the specialists have accommodated their testing, and they were able to do it with formula, or they were able to not eat at all. I did not say anything to that doctor regarding the meal because I felt it would be futile. He was one of those, and regardless of what I would have said, it wouldn't have made a difference. I could already tell.
You wanted me to say something. I'm waiting for you to tell him. You're the patient.
I just didn't think that it would have made any difference.
Because he's going to write in the notes, Mom talks for patient, or go watch The Act on Hulu, and she's Dee Dee. So it was up to you to say
That
something.
show is not very helpful for people.
Whatever, but you should have said something.
It would have been futile. You could tell he was the type, it didn't matter what I said, he wouldn't have
Say,
budged.
Dr. I so appreciate you, and I really want your help.
I don't think he would realize that I haven't eaten.
But I don't think you realize to what severity that I'm speaking of. Say, I have physicians you can speak to, even my ones at home. But it wasn't for me to say. Right? And half a mile.
Like the last thing I've eaten
On 20 East.
was gluten-free noodles. axis.
The length.
And then before that I had had a banana, and then I had buckwheat growth, and a pizza, a vegan pizza.
Use the right lane to merge onto I-20 East
And
toward
dates.
Columbia.
But that was
Your
in
thing's not working?
2006.
No, it can't find the
15.
GPS signal for some reason.
And this guy was not understanding that. So you don't think it was a waste of time?
Starting route to 1201
We've had
Old
worse.
Mill Road. Continue straight.
No, I figure we're getting the rectal one. It's something we haven't had done.
So after 3 hours of driving back, we're home, and now I have time to really recount what had happened. I'm a little frustrated, well, a lot frustrated, because I need this manometry testing in order to show up for my evaluation for the transplant, and this doctor not understanding the severity of my mast cell activation makes it a nightmare. Basically, I have not eaten a solid full meal in 4 years. At the beginning, of course, I had just gastroparesis, but for the most part, my intestines were in good working order. The main reason for me not eating before was that I would go into anaphylaxis from literally everything. Just the act of digestion and food passing through my stomach and duodenum and going on down the track would send me into anaphylaxis. So I was put on just a hypoallergenic formula, which I did J-feeds. So my GI tract was still being used. I would drink a little bit of water by mouth, and then I would do my J-feeds with the hypoallergenic formula, Elecare, for all of my nutrition. I've done a couple trials here and there, but they've never panned out. Once the bowel problem started progressing and getting worse, then I was put on TPN, and I've been on TPN for about 9 months now. They had tried to do TPN before, but I was reacting to that particular brand, and thankfully we found a type of TPN that I do tolerate, praise God, because before I was going into anaphylaxis from that too. But the TPN is an option now, and I'm thankful for that, but I do want to get off of TPN, and in order to do that, I have to be able to have all of this testing done to see the specialist that I need to see. Just in general, he did not understand mast cell activation. He didn't understand that it's not a true allergy where I can list, oh, I'm allergic to dairy, I'm allergic to corn, I'm allergic to soy, I'm allergic to wheat, I'm allergic to shellfish, and you avoid A, B, C, D, and E, and you'll be safe. With mast cell activation syndrome, it is not a true allergy, it is a cellular problem. So you can eat the same thing twice in one day and have anaphylaxis the first time and do great with it the second time. So he still said that all of his patients have to eat for this test, and it needs to be something substantial. And he wanted me to do a chicken sandwich, a cookie, a piece of fruit, and a small glass of milk. He consulted the dietitian to find substitutes for those parts of this meal that are comparable in consistency and in nutritional value. Now, the guy we consulted with, who is the dietitian, said absolutely not. He is not touching this case. It is not possible, and that this doctor is very stubborn and isn't seeing the whole picture. Even if mast cell activation syndrome was completely out of the picture and I just had the run-of-the-mill motility issue without mast cell complicating factors, you cannot expect a person who has not had solid food and whose intestines are dilated to double the size they should be, eat a full meal. That's not realistic, and it's not going to happen. And that is what's frustrating, because this guy has got tunnel vision and can't comprehend. I guess he's not aware of me not having a solid meal in 4 years, or he just flat out doesn't care. I don't know. But we will work this out to be able to see the specialist that I need to see for the transplant evaluation. And I do want to seem compliant, so I am going to follow through, and I'm going to do the anorectal manometry, but everyone agrees, except for this guy, that the AD anteroduodenal manometry is not feasible in the manner that he wants to perform it, because eating a meal is just not possible for me right now. If I could eat what he wanted, I would not even have had to come see him. I am not even tolerating an ounce of formula daily from a motility standpoint, and adding in mast cell allergies just complicates things tenfold. And when I have done my baby food trials, I can't even finish the whole jar without ending up in a significant mast cell reaction, not anaphylaxis, but still a significant mast cell reaction. And then I vent it out over 24 hours later, so it's just not moving. But like I said, we will discuss this with the rest of my team, and I've already contacted the motility specialist that is head over the eval, and hopefully this whole frustrating hiccup is just because there was a breakdown in communication, because they did not communicate as they were supposed to. But still, we'll get this worked out as always, and I guess I will keep everyone updated.